Good morning. Please be seated. We're ready to proceed this morning. Let me just make a comment about the end of the day on Friday. I had asked to speak to two of the jurors and at the end of the day, and I just wanted to tell you that that conference had nothing to do with the merits of this case. They had to do with issues that were peculiar to those particular jurors. So you should disregard it and not speculate as to what the conference was about. He had nothing to do with the merits of the case. So we'll move on with that. The issues were addressed and resolved. Yeah, let's proceed, please.
Thank you, Governor.
Well, there's one more issue. Let me do that at the break. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Arbeman.
Hi.
Mr. Arbeman, let's pick off where we were left off on Friday. Some of the stops that you were servicing for JMA. Are you familiar with the location known as Bella Rosa?
Yes.
What is the Bella Rosa?
A bar.
And where was the Bella Rosa located?
10th and Watkins.
Is that in South Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Were there video poker machines at the Bella Rosa?
2.
What type of machines?
Dodge Cities.
Who did those 2 Dodge City machines belong to?
Anthony.
Anthony Stano.
Yeah.
Did you service those video poker machines at the Bella Rosa?
Yeah.
Who collected the money from those 2 Dodge City poker machines at the Bella Rosa?
Anthony.
To your knowledge, were those video poker machines in the Bella Rosa used for gambling?
Yes.
Did you service video poker machines at a location at 9th and Moore Street in South Philadelphia?
Yes.
What was at that location? What type of business was at that location?
Convenience store.
Who ran that location, to your knowledge?
Donnie.
Is that the place you were referring to before as Donnie's place?
Yeah.
Could it have operated under another business name?
Yeah.
And were there video poker machines at the 9th and Moore location?
One.
And who did that belong to?
Anthony.
Anthony Stano?
Yeah.
Did you service that machine?
Yes.
Who collected the money from that machine?
Anthony.
To your knowledge, was that used for gambling purposes?
Yeah.
Now, you testified you would periodically send invoices to JMA for the cost of repair of parts that you were putting into their machines. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
This time I'm going to hand you an exhibit marked Government Exhibit 2S2. Previously been provided in discovery.
This is fine with me. I'm sure we follow
May I present with us, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
I'll hand you that exhibit. Mr. Arbeman, are you able to identify what those documents are?
Yeah.
What are they?
It's an invoice for parts.
And who is the invoice from?
From me.
And who is it addressed to?
JMA Inc.
Is it correct there's multiple invoices in that package?
Yes.
At this time I'm going to show the witness exhibit number 2S5-1.
Is that the circuit court? Judge, on both these exhibits, we have absolutely no objections. They can go directly to that.
They admit it.
Okay, if we can just...
I don't mean to interrupt, but just for the record, could we just have the invoice numbers that are in 2S2?
Yes, I'll read them into the record. And at this time, could we just display 2S6 for the jury? For the record, the invoice numbers are number 715. That's the one being displayed. displayed to the jury at this time. Number 330, number 322, and number 343. Mr. Arvin, is the document on the screen in front of you one of your ACE vending invoices that you submitted to JMA?
Yeah.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Arvin, I'm going to hand you an item that's previously been marked as Government Exhibit 2-5-1. Be careful handling this. It has some sharp things on it. You know what that item is?
Dodge City Board.
What is a Dodge City Board?
It runs the video poker.
Is that the internal computer software for the Dodge City poker machine?
Yeah, the hardware.
Are you familiar with that item as a result of your working with the video poker machines as you've testified about?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the chips that are on that board?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with a chip called the U17?
Yeah.
What is the U17 chip?
That chip is on the right-hand side. It's nothing I would deal with.
To your knowledge, is the U17 a knock-off feature?
No.
Now, you testified before about playing down credits on a Dodge City machine. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
How much does it cost to play down credits? How much does it cost to knock off credits on a Dodge City poker machine by using the play down method?
Cost time.
Does it cost any money?
No.
Can I retrieve that?
Yes.
Now, during the time that you were servicing JMA video poker machines, did you ever receive any complaints from stop owners that the Dodge City poker machines were hitting too often or making too many payouts?
Yes.
Was that a common complaint?
Not common, but it was there.
And what did you tell Anthony Stano or Joseph Massimino about those complaints?
Yeah.
Who did you tell, if you recall?
Probably both.
And did Stano or Massimino say anything to you in response to informing them that customers were complaining about the Dodge City poker machines making too many payouts?
Just to change the board.
What did you understand that to mean?
Put a different board in there.
Meaning one of these items that you just
Yes.
identified? And did you do anything in response to those instructions from Stano and Massimino?
Change the board.
Did that change the rate of payouts?
No.
Mr. Arvin, you've testified that you provided service free of charge to Lucibello, to Lou's Crab Bar, to Stano, and also JMA, correct?
Yes.
You did that for a period of about 10 years, correct?
Yes.
Did Ace Vending or Kurt Arberman derive any benefit from doing that?
Yes.
What benefit did Ace Vending and Kurt Arberman derive?
I picked up the other sides of the location.
What do you mean?
The pinball, the pool table, or the jukebox, or the shuffleboard, or the Mega Touch.
At the stops you were servicing?
Yeah.
Did you derive any other type of benefit from your relationship?
I don't want to object to counsel. You were the witness. The witness answered.
Well, he can focus his attention if he knows. Overruled.
You testified you were introduced to other stops, and I presume you got business from that, correct?
Yes.
In addition to getting more business from your relationship with these individuals, did you or Ace Vending derive any other type of benefit?
Yes. It made everybody happy. So there was no grief anywhere.
What do you mean there was no grief anywhere?
Well, they had their route. I had my route. Everybody was happy.
What do you mean you had your route?
I had my poker machines, my pool tables, my jukeboxes, and everybody was happy with me just fixing their stuff.
After you started providing free labor to these individuals, did anyone interfere in any way with your video poker business?
No.
And you just mentioned the word, there was no grief. Did you say
There's
that?
no grief.
What did you mean by saying that nobody had any grief?
There were no arguments over the stops as previous years, 10 years, 15 years ago.
10, 15 years ago, before you started providing free labor and services to these individuals, did you have grief in the operation of your video poker business?
Yeah,
And did that stop after you started providing free labor to these individuals?
yeah.
Calling your attention to Gaten Lucibello. Testified about Gaten Lucibello.
Yes.
After you started providing free service to Gaten Lucibello's video poker machines, did he say anything to you about what would happen to your machines?
He just told me not to worry about my machines.
What did you understand Gaten Lucibello to mean when he said, "Don't worry about your machines"?
Don't worry about my machines, because back then there was a feud between a few people, and they were picking up machines here and there.
What do you mean a few people?
One faction of the Italian guys against the other faction of the Italian guys.
Who are you referring to when you say the Italian guys?
The young guys and the old guys.
What young guys and what old guys?
The mob, the two different sides of the mob back then.
You said they were picking up machines is what you said?
Yeah, they pick up machines off of the vendors.
And did anybody pick up machines off of you?
Once.
Did that happen after you started providing free labor to Steno and Gambi and Massimino and Lucibello?
No.
You testified Ace Vending also sold Dodge City poker machines, correct?
Yes.
Do you remember calling your attention to the time frame of about the year 2003? Did you sell a video poker machine to an individual named Wally Carnival?
Wally, yes.
And before you sold that machine to Wally Carnival, did you speak to Gaten Lucibello?
Yes.
After you sold the video poker machine to Wally Carnival, did he advise you that he was having some type of problem with putting the machine at a location?
Objection,
Yes.
Judge. If he did, that would be hearsay.
Sustain, rephrase the question, if you can.
Were you, without telling the jury what Mr. Carnival said, follow my instruction?
Yes.
Did you become aware of a problem that Mr. Carnival was having with the machine you sold him?
Yes.
And a result of that information, did you have a conversation with Mr. Lucibello about that problem?
Yes.
And we're going to play a tape. I just want to lay some foundation. Did Mr. Carnival meet with you at your warehouse on an occasion to discuss that problem?
No. I think we met out where he was supposedly having a problem. I don't think he came to the warehouse.
Do you recall taking Mr. Carnival to speak with Mr. Lucibello where he was located?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, we're going to play one more tape. The transcript for this tape is behind tab 1-182. The tape recording is identified as Government Exhibit 1-182. It is dated July 3rd, year 2003. The time of the conversation is 10:23 a.m. The transcript is behind tab 182. It's in behind tab 182 in book 3 of Mr. Ardman, do you have that transcript in front of you?
Yeah.
Can we play that tape? Mr. Arborman, calling your attention to the first portion of that conversation that ran from page 1 to approximately page 3. Do you recognize the speakers on that portion of the conversation?
Yeah.
Who are the speakers?
Myself, Gayton, and Wally. I still don't know who Wally is.
But do you remember you sold him the machine, correct?
Yeah.
Now, calling your attention to, during this conversation, there's references to an individual named Joey A. Did you know an individual named Joey A?
Big Joey A. from A Street. That's all I could figure.
Did you know him? Did you know
Yeah.
who he was?
Mm-hmm.
Now, look at page 2 of this transcript. Line 7, you tell Mr. Carnival, well, that's the one you don't want to lose money on. What were you referring to when you said that's the one?
I don't know, because I thought I sold him a Dodge City to start out with.
Okay. And later on, line 20, you say we could get you a Dodge City, and the Dodge City is a reference to what?
Dodge City Poker.
Now, calling your attention to page 3 of the transcript, beginning at approximately line 13 to 14. Did you, after Mr. Carnival, does this conversation, the first 3 pages, does that refresh your recollection as to where this conversation took place?
I still thought it took place out in Ben Salem, but it sounds like with all the noise outside of the warehouse would be great.
Sounds like what warehouse?
My warehouse.
On Mountain Street?
Yeah.
Now, calling your attention to page 3, lines 13 and 14. After the initial part of the conversation, did you place a call to Gayton Lucibello?
Yes.
And did you speak to Gayton Lucibello?
Yeah.
And at line 16, you said, could have told him it was mine. What were you referring to when you used the word it?
Dodge City. Or the poker game.
The video poker machine
Yeah.
you had sold to Wally
To
Carnival?
Wally. Yeah.
Now, calling your attention to page 4, line 7, there's a gap in the recording. What did you do after you spoke to Gayton Lucibello on the telephone?
For 22 minutes?
No. Just look at time. You spoke to, listen to my questions carefully.
Go ahead.
You testified you spoke to, after you spoke with Mr. Carnival for a few minutes, you placed a call to Gayton Lucibello, correct?
Right, that's on 3.
After you spoke to Gayton Lucibello, what did you do?
I went back and talked to Wally.
At any time did you go talk to speak to Gayton Lucibello? I'm calling your attention to page 4 of the transcript. Line 10. Did you hear at that portion of the conversation, did you recognize the voice of Gayton Lucibello in that portion of the conversation?
Yeah.
So does that refresh your recollection as to meeting with Gayton Lucibello?
Yes.
Do you recall where that meeting took place?
At Bears.
How far was Bears from your Charlie Bears are you talking about?
Yes.
How far was Charlie Bears from your warehouse in South Philadelphia?
A mile.
Now, calling your attention to page, there's a reference to an individual named Fat Vic during this portion of the conversation.
Yes.
Did you know anybody named Fat Vic?
No.
There's also a reference to an individual named Shotzi. Do you recall hearing that name?
Yes.
Do you recognize the name Shotzi?
I recognize it, but I don't know him now.
How do you recognize the name Shotzi?
I just heard it around the neighborhood.
You never met Shotzi?
No.
Now, looking at page 5 of the transcript. After you met with Gaten Lucibello at Bears, what happened? Did you and Wally Carnival go somewhere after that? If you recall.
I thought I just took him back to his car,
Okay. Now, calling your attention to page 5,
right?
lines 18 and 19, you used the word mousy. Who is the word mousy a reference to?
Joe Massimino.
And calling your attention to line 23 on page 5, you say, if your game is gone, and then you continue at lines 1 and 2 on page 6, talking about Gaten is coming up to effing. When you made the reference to your game at line 23 on page 5, what were you referring to?
The video poker.
That you had sold to Wally Carnival?
Yeah.
Now, calling your attention to page 6 of the transcript, in line 8, you say, put it wherever you got a spot. Again, what were you referring to when you said put it?
Dodge City.
And then continuing the conversation, lines 12, you say, if they took it off you, continuing at line 14, we would go take it back. Again, what were you referring to when you used the word it? We would take it back.
My machine.
The Dodge City, the
Dodge
video
City.
poker machine
Yeah.
that you had sold to Wally Carnival.
Right.
And then line 16, you continue, then we'd probably take some of their shit. What
Right.
did you refer when you, what were you referring to when you used that phrase?
Well, if they robbed me, I would go rob them back.
One moment, Charlie. And that completes my examination of Mr. Arbiter.
Cross-examination?
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Mr. Orbitman?
All right.
Mr. Orbitman, you and I have never spoken, have we?
No.
Or even met?
No.
And you're aware that I several times requested a pretrial interview with you. You aware of that?
You are?
Ed Jacobs.
Yes.
And you declined.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the first opportunity we get to discuss this video poker machine issue, right?
True.
All right. Now, let's first deal with this conversation we all just heard and read, okay?
Yes.
First, it's hard to remember this because it goes back almost 10 years, doesn't it?
At least.
It's July 3 of 2003. This is December of 2002, so it's almost 9.5 years ago, right?
True.
All right. Now, obviously, you weren't recording this conversation, were you?
No.
All right. So who's left? Gaten wasn't recording it, as far as you know, was he?
No.
So it was Wally Carnival.
True.
You even know the guy?
No.
You know who Fat Vic is?
No.
Is there a Fat Vic?
I don't know.
Before this day, July 3, 2003, have you ever heard of the Fat Vic in Philadelphia?
No.
So you don't have any idea if Wally Carnival is telling you the truth or making up some big long story, which is a lie, do you?
True.
Whatever it is, a big long story which is a lie, or the truth, or something close to the truth, what he's basically telling you is there's a dispute over a location, right?
True.
And that didn't really surprise you because this was a very competitive business, wasn't it?
Very.
One of the first things you told us on direct examination last week or the week before, or whatever it was, that this is a competitive business, very competitive, right?
Yes.
So all he's telling you is that he tried to place a machine in a spot and somebody threatened him a little bit. Said, if you take this spot, I'm going to break it up, or words to that effect.
True.
Right? And this is a machine that you had sold him,
Yes.
so he had to lay out a couple $1,000.
Yes.
It wasn't a Dodge City machine, was it?
I thought it was.
Well, if you look at page 2, line 20, you say to him, we could get you a Dodge City machine. So if you already had a Dodge City machine, why would you say we could get you a Dodge City machine?
I don't know.
All right. It's hard to remember going back 9.5 years, right?
Yes.
But get back to where we were. So this is a dispute over who's got the unwritten rights to put a machine in somebody's location, right?
Yes.
And all kinds of names are getting thrown around, aren't they?
Yes.
Joey A.
Yes.
Joey A is a great big, humongous, heavy-set fella, now deceased, said to be connected with the mob, right?
Yes.
Joe Altamore, right? Do you know his last name?
No.
Shotzi Sparacchio, an old-time bookmaker from the 50s and 60s, serving 200 years in some federal prison, right?
Yes.
Right. Minersville, as a matter of fact.
Right.
Those are the names getting thrown around by this Wally Carnival, who's tape recording everybody. He's throwing around names of mob people, right?
Yes.
And he's telling you some story about somebody threatening to break up his machine. That's what's going on here,
Yes.
right? Now, by this time, you were friendly with Gayton, weren't you?
Yes.
You called Gayton and you went to see Gayton,
True.
right? Who also never heard of this Fat Vic, right? He says 3 or 4 times on his conversation, in his tape, he doesn't know who Fat Vic is, if there is a Fat Vic, right?
True.
And the bottom line of this whole dispute is Gayton says to you and Wally, well, if Fat Vic really is making a fuss over this, you tell Fat Vic to come and see me, right?
Yes.
He doesn't say I'm going to kill Fat Vic or I'll have Fat Vic killed or anything like that. He says, come and see me, right?
Yes.
And you must have understood that because you said on page 6, line 4, Effin Gayton is coming up to Effin. Tell him he want to talk to you. He don't want to hear nothing. So long as he's got a problem, come and talk to Gayton. And then that'll all be straightened out. You with me?
Yes.
That was lines 1 through 6 on the government's transcript, page 6, right?
Yes.
So the way this whole thing, whether this story, whether Fat Vic actually exists or doesn't exist, the way this dispute over Spot ends, as you understood it apparently, is tell him to talk to Gayton and they'll straighten it out, right?
Correct.
Right. Is that the end of it?
Yes.
Nobody got hurt, nobody got killed, no machines got busted up, no nothing.
No.
10 years ago.
Yes.
Right. Okay, next thing. Cherry Masters, is that the proper name of a machine?
Cherry Master, yeah.
Sure. What does it do?
It runs like a slot machine.
And does it have just one function, slot machine, or can do a couple of things?
Yeah, one function.
All right. Now, those are the machines that Marty Angelina had, right?
No.
Did Marty Angelina have, what type of machines do you say Marty had?
Dodge Cities.
Marty didn't have any Cherry Masters?
Not that I know of.
Do you remember one way or the other? If you don't, you don't.
No.
Cherry Masters have knockoff switches, don't they?
Yes.
Now, a knockoff switch is a device which facilitates the canceling out of accumulated plays, right or wrong.
Correct.
And that makes the machine more adaptable to gambling, right or wrong.
Yes.
All right. Now, contrary-wise, when Dodge City machines roll out of the factory, they do not have knockoff switches, right or wrong.
True.
I said right or wrong. So
Right.
be right.
Right.
Right. They do not have, for example, a button you can press to eliminate the accumulated credits, right?
True.
So they are not adaptable to gambling in that way.
True.
They also do not have two exposed bolts, which if joined by a screwdriver or a pair of pliers or a coin, will complete a circuit and knock off the accumulated plays. They don't have that either.
True.
So they're not adapted to gambling that way, are they?
True.
Now, are you knowledgeable enough about the circuitry in the Dodge City machines to understand that they have a power interrupt circuit?
Power interrupt what?
Circuit. So that if the machine is unplugged, it doesn't start all over again. It retains its
Memory.
score.
True.
Did you know that?
Yes.
Okay. Are you knowledgeable enough about the circuitry to know that if one were to remove that power interrupt circuit, the opposite would happen? All you have to do is unplug the machine and we'll cancel everything out. Do you know that?
No.
Okay. So you're not the circuit board meister here, are you?
No.
And that's why you don't know about the U17 chip, that if you remove the U17 chip and replace it in 15 seconds with a different chip, you can create a knockoff capability.
No, I never thought that.
Okay. Now, let's talk about all the JMA video poker machines. They're all Dodge City machines, right?
True.
As far as you know, as a matter of absolute historical fact, going right back to 2001, when JMA started, none of their Dodge City poker machines had knockoff buttons, right?
True.
Or two exposed bolts.
True.
Or, as far as you know, a removed power interrupt circuit.
True.
And as far as you know, an altered U17 chip.
True.
So the truth here is that none of the JMA video poker machines were modified in any way, shape, or form to facilitate use for gambling by knocking off credits.
Your Honor, I
right?
object to the form of the question. The truth is for the jury to determine, not for Mr. Argument upon upon.
How does one object to the truth?
Your Honor, the purpose is the form of the question.
Judge, I'll rephrase the question.
Okay.
As far as you know, as a matter of absolute historical fact, okay, not one of these JMA video poker machines was modified in any way to facilitate knocking off credits, right?
True.
Now, credits do accumulate, don't they?
Yes.
Not just on Dodge City poker machines, right?
True.
There are a wide array of video machines which accumulate credits, aren't there?
Yes.
Remember from the 40s and 50s, the bowling machines? Are you old enough to remember that?
40s and 50s now.
Neither have I, but I've heard about it.
Okay.
60s and 70s, Meteor machines, Galactica, Space Invaders,
Right.
they accumulate credits, don't they?
Not credits.
When you win,
Yeah.
when you get certain scores, don't they accumulate credits so you can play again?
No.
What video machines do?
Pinball machines.
Pinball, okay, there's
Right.
one example, and they've been around for a long time.
Yes.
What are the type of machines?
A Mega Touch, if you get a high score, will give you a free game.
Megatouch. And others?
Yeah.
And on any one of them, you can either play the credit or you can just waste it and intentionally lose, right?
Yes.
Now, you've seen lots and lots of these Dodge City machines over the span of time you were in the business, right?
Yes.
And can you define for us again, what is that span of time?
25 years.
25 years. Now, so you've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of Dodge City machines.
Yes.
We had a sample in the courtroom, which is no longer here, so we'll work from memory. On the face of the machine, there is a TV monitor, right?
Yes.
And it is surrounded by some silk-screened or painted ornamentation, right?
Yes.
and at the bottom is a warning saying this machine is for amusement purposes only, right?
Yes.
They all come out of the factory like that?
Yes.
When you engage the machine, when you put a coin in and the face lights up, the monitor, it contains another warning which appears periodically on the screen saying for amusement purposes only, right?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and give me a specific answer because we've had a prior ruling on this. Don't tell me if there's other language on that warning, but the warning does include the words, this machine is for amusement purposes only, and then it goes on and it states a reason, right?
Correct.
All right. And they all come out of the factory just like that.
Yes.
So none of that was modified on any of the machines that JMA had for 10 years.
True.
Now, where did you go to buy these video poker machines from Merit Industries?
Batson. Oh, no, not Batson.
Ben Salem.
Ben Salem.
Okay.
Exactly.
Ben Salem is the answer to the question.
Right.
All right. They are manufactured by Merit Industries
True.
in Ben Salem, Pennsylvania,
True.
about 10 miles from here.
Yes.
So if you wanted to go buy one today,
Right.
you could be back with it in about an hour.
No.
How long?
Merritt moved.
Oh, they moved. Where'd they move to?
Illinois.
Okay. Well, it would take considerably more than an hour then.
Yeah, they got taken over.
All right. When did they move?
Oh. $5 years ago, maybe.
Okay, 5 years ago was 2007.
True.
So until 2007, if you were disposed to do it, you'd go to Ben Salem, pick one up, and have it back here in an hour.
Yes.
Now, you said in Ben Salem there are two distributors. Was Merit one of them?
No.
What are the two distributors?
One was State Sales and one was Deeth Amusement.
I hear
Deeth
you.
Amusement and State Sales.
I'm sorry, I'm missing the
One was
that's not-
State Sales.
Core State,
No, just State.
State Sales,
And then State Sales went broke and they became Deeth Amusements.
and you say they're distributors of what?
Everything.
How about video poker machines?
Yes.
How about Dodge City video poker machines?
Yes.
How about Dodge City poker machines exactly like the ones that JMA had?
Yes.
So there were two distributors aside from Merit Industries selling them right in Ben Salem, Pennsylvania, 10
Yes.
miles from here.
Yes.
Right. And you said there were also repair places there,
Yes.
places that repaired Dodge City poker machines.
Yes.
Now, how would you get a Dodge City poker machine from Merit Industries when it was still in Ben Salem, or one of those two distributors when they were still in Ben Salem? You would go there in a truck, right?
True.
A truck big enough to hold one or more machines, right?
True.
Would you go in the middle of the night, say 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 in the morning, so nobody could see you?
No.
You would go in business hours.
Yes.
Would you cover the video poker machine up in tarps so nobody could see that it was a video poker machine?
No.
You would just wheel it out of the distributor or wheel it out of Merit Industries and put it up on your truck, right?
Yes.
And take it back to your warehouse. As simple as that, right?
True.
No secrecy, no concealing, no nothing.
True.
Because in your mind, there was absolutely nothing improper or illegal about that machine
Objection.
as it rolled out of the factory.
Objection.
His state of mind.
Sustained.
Did you think you were doing anything wrong when you bought one of those machines?
Objection. Same.
Well,
Same question.
the same question. That's really not a state of mind. That calls really for a legal conclusion. So I'm going to sustain that objection.
How many times do you think you did that? Picked up a machine at one of those distributors or Merit Industries?
Merit wouldn't sell them to you. The other two industries, a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
So Merit wouldn't sell. What do you mean they wouldn't sell them to you? They wouldn't sell to the ultimate user, or
They wouldn't sell to a vendor, only to a distributor.
so Merit sold to distributors who sold to vendors.
True.
So there were a couple of middlemen in there,
True.
and you as a vendor would then sell or lease to a location,
True.
or you would own the machine yourself and just place it in a location.
Yes.
In all the years, now you said you've been in the vending business 25 years, right?
Yeah.
How many of those years in the vending business were you dealing with Dodge City poker machines?
15.
15. And would that be a lot of Dodge City poker machines
That would be pretty lot.
in a lot of locations?
Yes.
Did you ever force a location to take a Dodge City poker machine?
No.
Did JMA, as far as you know, ever force a location to take a Dodge City poker machine?
No.
They only took them if they thought it would enhance their business and maybe they could make some money, right?
True.
Now, you said that there were a lot of other vending companies and it was a very competitive business, right?
Very.
Is that true in the period of time extending from 1999 through 2011 or 12,
Yes.
the period of this indictment?
Yes.
Very competitive,
Very.
right? And you know that because you were in the industry that whole time.
True.
So you know just how competitive it was.
Yes.
Would you agree that in the city of Philadelphia, there were at least 2,000 of these video poker machines?
Yeah, I could agree with that.
And in Pennsylvania, 20,000?
I would think.
They were all over the place, weren't they?
Yes.
Convenience stores, restaurants, bars, private social clubs, all over the place.
Yes.
And according to prior testimony you've given in this case, your recollection is that in this span of time, at its peak, JMA had 10 stops.
Around that.
10 stops. Each stop would have one machine or two, right?
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
1, 2, 3. So at their peak, they had what, maybe 20 or 30 machines? At their peak,
Yes.
out of 2,000 in Philadelphia, right?
True.
Now, next topic is finances, okay?
Yes.
You described to the jury an arrangement where a vendor such as you would get perhaps 30% and the location owner 70%, or in your particular situation, you would get 25% and the location owner 75%. Remember saying that last week?
Yes.
Right. Now, that's a common arrangement, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
All right. And the bigger guys, according to you last week, made it a 70-30 split. So the location owner got 70%, and the bigger vendors got 30%, right?
True.
You made it more attractive for the location owners by giving them 75%, and you took 25%.
Yes.
That was the JMA arrangement also, wasn't it? 75-25. All
Yes.
right. Now, here's what I want to talk about. If we were to review if we were to find tab 157 If you wouldn't mind turning to 157, I just want to pluck a number out of there for illustrative purposes.
Out of here?
You go to 157.
Yep.
That's very, back to 157. And I need to find my marker. Okay, the number I want to pluck out of this government exhibit is 2058. You see it?
Yeah.
That's a counter number, right?
Yes.
Now, the way you got that number is to subtract the previous number from the current counter reading, and you got 2058.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you mind if I round that for arithmetic purposes to 2060? Okay?
Yes.
Now, can we tell the jury what that represents is 2060 plays from the last time the meter was read?
Excuse me. Yes.
Now, the plays could be nickel plays or they could be quarter plays, right?
True.
Let's make them quarter plays for illustrative purposes, okay?
Okay.
So we can understand the split. Now, if the split of 2060 plays is 75% to the location owner, will you agree with me, or will you accept my math, I should say, that 75% is 1,545, and 25% is 515. You can
Yes.
see
Oh,
what-
yes,
what's
yes,
clearly
yes, yes.
In your head, you can do this one.
Yes.
This is clearly a quarter of that, right?
Yes.
So I'm getting 3/4 of that, and they add up to that, right?
Yes.
So arithmetic is sound? Right. Now, if they're in fact quarter plays, in terms of the dollars, we have to divide by 4, wouldn't we?
Yes.
And if we were to do that, we accept my math, that the resulting arithmetic is $129 in American money to the vendor and $387 to the location owner.
Yes.
That's pretty consistent with what you said earlier. You gave us a couple of versions of what a machine would make you. One recollection was $250 every 2 weeks, that'd be $125. And I think on another occasion you said about $100 a week, right?
Yes.
So based on all your years in the industry, are these fairly accurate figures?
Yes.
All right. And again, JMA, over this 10-year period, they had 10 stops and peaked at 20 or 30 machines, right?
True.
All right. Now, here's the next issue on this. Did you ever order any location that they had to pay out on these machines?
No.
Do you have a shred of evidence that anybody in JMA, that Anthony or Mousy or Joe ever ordered anybody to pay out on these machines?
No.
The way it works in this industry is week in, week out. The vendor gets 25% of the plays multiplied by a nickel or a quarter, right?
True.
It's the location owner who keeps the other $387, in my example, and decides, so he's getting 3 times as much, isn't he?
Yes.
It's the location owner who decides what he wants to do with that machine. Pay out, don't pay out. Pay out under these circumstances, pay out under those circumstances. The location owner decides that, right?
Yes.
Some location owners decide to pay out, some location owners decide not to pay out, right?
True.
But that's their decision.
Yes.
All right. Now, when I turn this page, before I turn this page, what this is not an example of a machine generating $1,000 in a week, paying out $400, leaving $600, and then the location owner and the vendor whacking up the remaining money 50-50. That's not this, right?
Yes,
Yes, this is not that. They're different things.
different things.
Okay. Now, the arrangement I just described, a location owner paying out, in my hypothetical, paying out $400 out of $600 and dividing the remaining $600 evenly with the vendor. You understand the premise?
Yes,
Right. That is sometimes done in the industry, isn't it?
yes,
You've done it.
yes,
You've done it. Okay. You've never, in your 2 days of testimony, ever accused JMA of doing that, have you?
no,
Because as far as you know, they never did that.
no,
In my hypothetical, where $1,000 is played on a machine in a week, 400 is paid out, 600 is left and divided evenly between the vendor and the location owner, they are clearly sharing the profits of gambling, aren't they?
yes,
You did that, and that's what got you in trouble, isn't it?
Objection.
So staying to the form of the question.
You already told me you did that, right?
not with Dodge Cities.
With some machines.
Yes,
Which machines did you do it with?
cherries,
I'm sorry?
cherries.
With Cherry.
I'll speak up.
So you didn't do it with Dodge Cities, but you did do it with the Cherries.
Yes,
And you already helped me earlier by explaining that the Cherry Blasters are specifically adapted for gambling, right?
yes,
Right. So you did the 50-50 arrangement. That is a partnership in gambling. You did it with Cherry Blasters, and you did get in trouble.
yes,
All right. When a vendor such as JMA, or you for that matter, has a 75-25 arrangement, it's pretty simple to execute. You just look at the meter reading, which is like an odometer, right?
yeah,
If you get into your car today and the odometer says 53,100 miles, and next Monday it says 53,800 miles, 900 miles, you know you went 800 miles,
correct.
right? And that's what this meter reading is. It's like the odometer in your car, right?
Yes,
It tells you the number of plays, so you can calculate a fixed 25% of the number of coins that went in, right?
yes,
A fixed percentage.
yes,
Now, on the other end of the equation, the location owner, if he had a good week, he wouldn't pay out at all and keep all that 387.
yes,
If he had a bad week, he might have paid out all but $15.
yes,
Right? He's a risk taker.
yes,
Now, in each of these locations, whether it be a luncheonette or a convenience store or a bar or a restaurant or a private club, there is a human being working there. Might be an owner, might be a bartender, might be somebody else. There's a human being at the location who actually physically makes payouts, if they choose to do that, right?
yes,
That human being is not an employee or an agent of the vendor, is he?
no,
That human being provides money from the business, from the delicatessen or the bar or the social club or whatever it is, right?
yes,
not the vendor's money.
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, lack of foundation.
He's been in the industry 25 years.
Well, Your Honor-
He's had his own routes. He's had his own machines.
You're asking a specific question, Mr. Jacobs, can you step aside so I can see You're asking specific questions about those stop locations, and there's no indication that he knows that specific information about these.
The foundation.
Do you know how the industry operates and how you operated within the industry?
Yes.
And isn't everything I said correct?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to ask you to turn to one more conversation, and this is in our book. I forget which book, but it's tab 171. And this is a conversation we heard last week between you and Mr. Stano. And this one is 11 and a half years ago, April 3, 2001. Can you tell me when you get there?
If it's in book 3, I got it.
Okay, 171. You there?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this conversation is 2 pages long. And it appears to refer to a goofball on 9th Street where it's hard to park. So does that fix a location for us?
Yes.
And apparently there's a mechanical problem with a machine, right?
Yes.
Now, I want to focus you in on one discrete section of this conversation between you and Mr. Stano these 11 and a half years ago. And that's starting on line 16 of the first page where you inquire, do you know what's wrong with it? You're talking about the machine, right?
Yeah.
And he answers, no, I don't know. I don't want to talk on the phone. He talks. Who's the he referring to in your mind?
The owner of the location.
Exactly. He talks like F, like you know, like we're in business. Did I read that right?
Yes.
Did you understand, Mr. Stano, when he said it?
Yes.
He said the owner of that location talks as if he and Mr. Stano are in business.
Yes.
They weren't in business, were they?
I don't know.
Mr. Stano, on all locations, including this one, got a fixed 25% of the meter reading, right?
Yes.
Second conversation, tab 186. This is a much more recent conversation, August 31, 2009, between you and Mr. Stano. And it's about the Blue Suede location. Tell me when you're there.
Yes, I got it.
And according to Mr. Stano, on lines 3 and 4, somebody took a machine out,
Yes.
right? And he was guessing that it was Vice.
Yes.
In fact, that's what he said. I guessed Vice.
Yes.
And we get page 1, line 6. And then Mr. Stano says they didn't lock anybody up. They said, quote, oh, you paid out somebody, it's a routine thing. Is that what he said to you?
That's what he said.
Now, what you said back, you did not know that anybody's phone was tapped, did you?
No.
And what you said back, not knowing anybody's phone was tapped, was, quote, should have said he didn't ever pay anybody out. And Mr. Stano answered, I know they don't. Right?
Yes.
And he continues on, that's what I'm saying. They're probably just going around just taking the machines. Now, you and he had this conversation 3 years ago, not knowing, at least you not knowing, it was being secretly recorded, right?
Yes.
And you said you should just tell them they don't pay out. And he says, I know they don't pay out. You two were talking, what you thought was confidentially, about Blue Suede having the machines but not paying out, right?
Yes.
Here's an example of a location owner who made the decision not to pay out, right? And that's backed up again on page 2 lines 5 through 7, in particular 7, where you say he don't even pay people, so I don't understand that. The he was a reference to the Blue Suede owner or manager.
Yes.
You don't even pay people, right?
Yeah.
Another example, some location owners decide to pay out, some don't. Right?
Yes.
Now, you and I discussed earlier the JMA video poker stops. From your previous testimony, I know they were 100% video poker stops, right?
No.
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 Didn't you tell the FBI that they were 100% video poker stops?
I don't remember that.
Have you ever read the FBI, in preparation for your testimony, have you ever read the FBI 302 reports on you, on your interview?
Probably.
Do you remember telling the FBI?
We've done this before with the 302s, please.
No, we object to this procedure.
It's the agent who wrote it down, not him.
Well, I understand that, Judge, but
Yeah.
I need to pose the specific question so that we can then produce the agent.
He said he doesn't recall. Okay, produce the agent now.
Well, he said he may have read the reports, so I'd like to show him the report.
Doesn't matter whether he read the report or not.
You remember testifying at the grand jury?
Yes.
Did you say at the grand jury that JMA had video poker stops?
Page and line.
Sure. Remember testifying before the grand jury on December 15, 2010?
Yes.
Okay. And you remember at page 89, being asked a question, can you tell us where JMA got their video poker machines from, and answering they bought a route?
Objection, Your Honor. I object to the purpose of this. We're just reading testimony into the record.
Were you asked, and did you say, is that in contradiction to something that he has said here in court?
I think it's in contradiction. I think it also refreshes his recollection, Judge.
Well, you don't refresh your recollection by reading it out loud, as you know.
All right, let me try it this way. JMA had video poker machines, right?
Yes.
They were Dodge City machines, weren't they?
Yes.
10 stops, 20 or 30 machines, right?
Yes.
Did you ever say that they had anything other than Dodge City video poker machines? Ever?
Yes.
When and where?
I thought right here when they
Right
picked
here.
up Donnie Stop.
How about to the FBI or to the grand jury? Did you ever make that claim before right here?
I can't remember that.
In light of that answer, may I show them the 302 report?
Objection, Your Honor.
All right. The route that JMA bought was a sloppy video poker route, in your words, right?
Yes.
And what do you mean a sloppy video poker route?
The machines were all banged up. They were hideous.
In disrepair,
Very.
needing a lot of work,
A whole lot.
okay? And these were all Dodge City machines.
Yes.
So they bought a route where the machines were hideous, in your word, that's why you called it sloppy, which required a lot of restoration and repair work,
Yes,
which over a period of time you did.
yes.
Right. Now, Judge, I want to bring up a video now, unless you want me to do it after the break. I don't care.
We'll take a break and then we'll
Right.
come back. It's 5 of 11. We'll return at 10 past 11. Yeah, please be seated. Witness take the stand, and let's bring the jury in. Oh, before we bring the jury in, please be seated. I wanted to make a statement to those of you who are members of the audience, and I know the audience changes from time to time. People come in and out. But just as a general matter, the courtroom is open to the public. The public and those who participate in the proceedings are expected to behave in a manner that does not affect the proceedings. Therefore, I am asking you to please refrain from making any loud statements or pointing or gesturing in any way that may be taken as either approval or disapproval of any testimony that is given or intended to convey any messages to members of the jury. I have asked the Marshal Service to monitor the situation, and if such a development occurs, after consulting with counsel, any person engaging in such a conduct will be removed from the courtroom. Please. Yeah. Okay, please be seated. Let's proceed, please.
Mr. Arborman, last week, during your direct testimony, we listened to and saw transcripts of a series of 30-odd conversations numbered 146 to 179. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And all of them were in early 2001. That is before April 9, 2001.
Correct.
And what happened on April 9, 2001? Pennsylvania State Police, the FBI.
Oh, okay.
Right,
They raided the warehouse, knocked the door down.
knocked the door down and took a whole lot of your stuff, including 11 Dodge City poker machines, right?
Correct.
All right. Now, after that, that's April 9, 2001, after this raid by the Pennsylvania State Police and the FBI, about a month later, namely May 7, 2001, you were at Lou's Crab Bar,
Yes.
right? Now, sorry, the correct reference is 3K3. Right. Judge, may we display 3K3?
Okay.
Now, so we don't have to start and stop. Who are we looking at?
Mousy and Anthony now?
Okay. can make them out clearly?
From behind.
Well, even from behind, you can make them out
Yes.
clearly.
Mhm.
These are good enough videos for you to see who's at Lou's Crab Bar,
Yes.
all right?
It's Joe.
Joe Legambi, my client,
Yes.
okay? And where are you?
Nowhere.
Well, eventually,
Oh, I'm inside now.
right, so, and you're gonna come out.
Yes.
Is that Mousy there? Talking on the phone?
He's behind a tree.
This video is clear enough for you to make good identifications, right?
Yes.
Who's that?
It's me.
Okay. So you can identify everybody in this 2001 video, right?
Yes.
Right. And of course, you didn't know that a video was being made from a pole camera, did you?
No.
Right. You probably didn't see this till 10 years later,
True.
right?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Right. You didn't know a video was being made,
Yes.
right? But now, 10 years later, you're able to identify everybody in the video.
Yes.
It's clear enough for those purposes, right?
Yes.
All right. All right, we can stop that. This is the discussion you explained to us where who was it? Was it Mousy or Anthony said that they hoped to buy a route?
Yes.
Which one?
I can't remember
But
specific.
somebody said they hoped to buy a route,
Yes.
right? And it was a route of video poker machines.
Yes.
And the route eventually was bought from M&P Vending.
Yes.
Is this the same route you told us before the break was sloppy and the machines were hideous and required a lot of repairs and restoration?
Yes.
That's the route that they bought,
Yes.
right? And as I recall your direct testimony, the discussion included the necessity of setting up a business and applying for a business privilege license at City Hall.
Yes.
And once one has a business privilege license, a person pays tax, a business privilege tax, right?
Yes.
And that was the clear intention of this discussion. If you want to buy a route, you got to set it up like a business, you got to have a license, you got to pay taxes, right?
Yes.
Right. And that was all after, by about a month, after the April 9, 2001 raid.
Yes.
Now, last week, there were some other tapes played. 180, 181, 169, 186, 185, 183, 184. The first couple were from 2003 and 4, and the last four from 2009. Remember listening to all them and seeing the transcripts?
Yes.
Now, so, we heard a bunch of tapes from early 2001, and then there was that seizure in April of 2001, and then JMA got underway in May of 2001, right?
Yes.
Now, you didn't get charged with any criminal offenses in 2001, did you?
No.
Or 2002?
No.
Or 2003, 4, or 5?
No.
Or 2006, 7, or 8?
No.
Or 2009?
No.
It's actually the middle of 2010 before you got charged with any offense, right?
Yes.
And by then, you had been doing what you had been doing for 15 or more years.
Yes.
Now, after you were charged, you, of course, got a lawyer,
Yes.
right? And after you were charged, you would still see Marty and Gayton and Anthony and Joe and Mousy. You'd still see them around, right?
Not Joe.
Okay, take Joe out of it. You still see the others around.
Yes.
You really never had any discussions with Joe Legambi at all about the video poker business, did you?
No.
All right. So taking him out, you did see Anthony and Mousy and Gayton and Marty and others, right?
Yes.
All right. Nobody ever tried to influence what you might say to law enforcement, did they?
No.
Objection, Your Honor. It's-
Overruled.
The answer to the question was no.
Right.
And in all the time that you were engaged in the business we've been discussing, you never made any tribute payments or Christmas payments or any other kind of payments to the mob, did you?
No.
Now, you said in direct testimony that you grew up with Marty Angelina, right?
Yes.
And that you were close with Gayton Luchabello, close with Marty, and close with Anthony Stano. Oh, I'm sorry, close with Mousy and close with Anthony Stano.
Yes.
You're friends who ate and drank together, right?
Yes.
You were, and your friends with whom you ate and drank, they helped you out by referring stops to you, right?
Yes.
It was good for business, right?
Yes.
In any business, if you know people and you can refer them as clients or customers, that's good, right?
Yeah.
One hand washes the other. That's why you were pretty generous in making repairs for ports only, right?
Yeah.
And not knocking them out for labor.
Exactly.
They knew a lot of people in South Philly. They recommended a lot of customers to you. You got a lot of customers through them, and you appreciated that.
Yes.
They never forced any customer to deal with you, did they?
No.
Now, will you agree that Mousy and Anthony and Joe, they're all males, right?
Yeah.
South Philly, Italian males,
Objection, Your Honor.
right?
Yeah, well, I think that's self-evident.
It is.
Unless you're going somewhere. What's
No,
the
it's very
point here?
complicated. That's how you know them. You know them as Italian-American guys living in South Philly, rumored to be connected to the mob, right?
Yes.
Now, by the way, we listened to a series of recordings last week where Pasquale was one of the speakers. Remember them?
Yeah.
They included 155, 162, 163, 168, 172, 173, 176, 179. They were all in 2001, right?
Yes.
And in all of them, Pasquale made reference to a coffee machine.
Yes.
In one, he said espresso, but referring to a coffee machine.
Yeah.
Right. But every time those words were spoken, that was Pasquale saying it, wasn't it?
Yes.
Not Anthony, not you. That was Pasquale saying it.
Yes.
And did it become evident that Pasquale was using that as a kind of code to disguise the fact that he was making payouts?
Yes.
I mean, it's not the most difficult code to crack, is it?
No.
I mean, he's got a video poker machine, he's referring to it as a coffee machine, right?
True.
And there again, Pasquale, like any other location owner, that would be his decision, whether he's going to make payouts or not.
Yes.
Now, you were asked a couple of questions about adjusting the odds on a Dodge City machine. It can't be done, can it?
No.
Even if you do replace the circuit board, all you're doing is placating a griping location owner, right?
Yes.
You have an agreement, a written binding agreement with the government, don't you?
Yes.
Did you sign it?
Yes.
marked in this trial as Government Exhibit 10L. Can I safely assume you read it?
Yes.
And you understand it?
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, you're assisted by counsel?
Yes.
Right. And am I correct that, indeed, that it is a typewritten, 13-page written agreement signed by you and your lawyer and several government representatives?
Yes.
And that defines your written agreement with the government, right?
Yes.
Now, parts of it state that you've got to provide truthful and complete and accurate information regarding any crimes that you have knowledge of, right?
Yes.
Now, do you understand that this agreement requires that you continue to do that even after you are eventually sentenced?
Yes.
Now, you're not sentenced as of today, are you?
No.
So you made your guilty plea in the fall of 2010, more than 2 years ago, but you're not yet sentenced, are you?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And if you were sentenced tomorrow, you understand that under this written agreement you have with the governor, with the government, it extends beyond that sentencing, right?
Yes.
And if any time before or after you're sentenced, if the government lawyers, if they decide that in their minds you haven't provided full or truthful information or haven't cooperated sufficiently, you can be prosecuted for anything and everything. You understand that?
Yeah.
Even if you've already been sentenced.
Yes.
So they got their hooks in you basically forever.
Yeah.
Now, if in the sole discretion, you understand that term, don't you?
Yes.
If in the sole discretion of the government lawyers, if they feel you fulfilled all your obligations, then they're going to do certain things for you, right?
Yes.
Including filing a motion for a smaller sentence.
Yes.
Now, you pled guilty to racketeering conspiracy, a 20-year federal prison sentence, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to do that, do you?
No.
You don't want to do any of that, do you?
No.
You would like to get a probationary term.
Yes.
And if in their sole discretion they feel you've been truthful and cooperative and helpful, then the government lawyers can also make whatever recommendation they want regarding forfeiture, right?
I didn't know that.
Judge, may I show the witness the agreement?
Okay.
I'm going to show you page 6. I'm sorry, page 8 of the agreement. And to make it make sense, we have to look at subparagraph C, make whatever sentencing recommendation is imprisonment, fine, forfeiture, restitution, other matters, which the government deems appropriate. And you'll see that falls under the category of what the government will do if in their sole discretion they think you've been honest and helpful. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So what's riding on your testimony is not just whether you do any jail time, but forfeiture.
Yes.
In your case, including not just 86 electronic gambling devices, but $600,000.
Yes.
A significant amount of money.
Oh, yeah.
So is it safe to assume that you probably don't care too much about getting back any of the gambling devices or video machines or stuff like that?
True.
But what you do care about is the $600,000. You'd like to see that shrink down to $25 or something.
I would like that.
And you do care about 20 years. You'd rather not do any of that.
Yes.
Right. Now, so that's the written agreement you've got with the federal prosecutors, right?
Yes.
And quite obviously, you have no agreement of any sort whatsoever with the defense.
No.
There's not a blessed thing we can do for you.
Nope.
Right. Now, in these documents I just had in my hand, I saw and mentioned forfeiture of 86 machines and so on. From your warehouse there were seizures of, I believe, a total of 86 machines. But you had a lot of locations of your own, didn't you?
Yes.
And machines were seized from your locations also.
Yes.
Do you have a grand total for me? How many machines did you lose in federal seizures?
I don't know that.
Over 100?
I don't think so.
But a lot.
A lot.
An awful lot more than JMA ever had.
Yes.
Now, one of the things you said last week was that you were in Lou's Crab Bar a lot. I think you said 3-4 times a week, right?
Yes.
Eating, drinking, socializing.
Yes.
You had friends there, didn't you?
Yeah.
Now, and this goes back years, right?
Yes.
Lou's Crab Bar has been gone a couple of years. It's something else now, right?
Yeah.
And you probably haven't been in the place in 3 years, 4 years?
More than that.
More than that, okay. But what you told the jury as a government witness with a written agreement, both those things are correct, right?
Right.
That a couple of times, and I wrote it down, is that what you said? A couple of times you saw Boots, a bartender, or Sabu make a payout from a video poker machine, right?
Yes.
So in all these years, you're telling us that a couple of times, what does a couple mean? 2, 3, 4, something like that?
2, 3, 4.
2, 3, 4. In all these years, 2, 3, 4 times, as a government witness with a contract to be cooperative, you can now remember 2, 3, 4 times that somebody made a payout on a video poker machine, right?
Yes.
And of course, you don't know whether that was a $2 payout or a $1 payout or a $5 payout or anything, right?
Yes.
But you were a government witness with this enforceable contract, and you're telling us that's what you can remember.
Yes.
All right. Today, do you still have video poker machines operating in locations?
None are mine.
I'm sorry?
I don't own any.
Okay. I'll rephrase the question. Have you placed any video poker machines in locations, even though you may not own them?
Can we have a time frame, please?
Today,
Today?
2012,
No.
430 East Belgrade Street, Philadelphia.
Oh.
Huh?
Yeah, they were there for years.
And you have a Dodge City, and you have a Cherry Master there, today.
No.
When's the last time you had the Dodge City and the Cherry Master there?
A month ago?
A month ago. All right, so this is, where are we now? This is December 4th. A month ago was November 4th. This case was about a month old then, and you still had a Dodge City and a Cherry Master working at this location,
Yes.
right? And were the owners, Abel and Cohn, paying out on it? That would be William Abel.
No.
They were not paying out,
No, he's living down the shore.
okay? Was it being used for gambling purposes is the point.
Yes.
And you still had it there,
Yes.
okay? Now, what kind of arrangement did you have? Did you have our arrangement, which was a simple meter reading, 25% of the meter?
No, not at that time.
Were you splitting profits?
Not at that time.
Well, I'm sorry, what does that mean at that time? We're talking about a month ago.
A month ago.
A month ago,
They,
were they paying out and splitting the net with you?
no.
Were you collecting just 25% of the meter count?
No.
What was your arrangement then?
I was collecting the whole jukebox and the whole Mega Touch, and they were keeping the money out of that.
So, you got the 100% of the Mega Touch and the jukebox, they got 100% of the machine,
Right.
which you provided,
Which was there forever.
which was there forever,
That didn't get picked up in 2009. It was there from that time.
okay? And who put it there?
I put it there.
You put it there?
Yes.
All right. And they were using it for gambling
Yes.
as recently as 1 month ago.
Yes.
That's all I have with the witness, Judge.
Mr. Sanawita?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Martin, how you doing? Good. Now, see if I can ask questions, okay?
Sure.
By the way, you're familiar with Broadway Theatrical?
Yes,
Do you have a machine there now, too?
there's one in there.
There's one in there. And is it your machine?
No,
Whose machine is it?
it's Vinnie's.
Or do you share in the profits of it?
Yes,
Is it still operating as we speak today?
I have no idea.
Now, you told the jury that this poker and the video machine business was very competitive, correct?
Yes,
Now, if you were a store owner and I came to you and I said, I got a machine, I'd like to put it in your store and we'll work out some financial arrangement, and you say, fine, and I bring you the machine, correct?
yes,
That there's no written contract, is there?
sometimes.
Sometimes. But 3 months later, if your brother-in-law comes to you, or a real dear friend of you comes and says, I'm going into the video machine business, I want to put my machine in your store. And you said, yeah, I already have one. Well, call the guy up and tell him to take it out and put mine in there. There's nothing to stop that scenario, is there?
Unless there's a contract.
Unless there's a contract. Well, how many contracts did you have?
Me? One?
Out of how many stores? 200? How many stores did you say you had places in?
35?
35. So out of 35 stores that you had machines in, there was one that had a contract.
Yeah,
So somebody could have came along and just taken the other 34, correct?
sure.
So at some point, you made an agreement to cooperate with the government,
Yeah.
correct? And one of the things that they did was say, come on in and talk to us and tell us what you know about the video machine business, right?
Yeah,
And back in the way it looks to me, one of the earlier times that you did this was in 2009, right? And in 2009, they asked you about this JMA. You remember that?
right.
And what it says that you told them was that Mr. Stano purchased machines.
Objection.
Yeah, sustained. Form of the question.
Well, at that time, when they asked you, you never said anything about Mr. Massimino having anything to do with JMA. Is that correct?
No,
Am I correct, or you never said it?
repeat that again?
My question is, when they asked you about JMA, you told them that Anthony was the one who purchased JMA, correct?
Yes,
You never told them anything about Mousy, correct?
yes,
And also, when you met before the grand jury, which was in 2010, they asked you again, Judge Dawson, please. They asked you again about JMA, and you said that, to your understanding, Anthony bought it, correct?
yes,
They, the government, who was questioning you, tried to get you to say that it was more than...
Objection, Your Honor.
Well,
Form of the question, please
do you
rephrase.
remember telling them,
Objection.
Sustained.
Judge?
Are you asking about grand jury testimony?
Yes. No, I'm asking his recollection of what he was told by the government. This is what you say to them, I guess you would know better. You know what I'm saying?
Objection.
Sustained form of the question.
Your understanding was that it was Anthony's company, correct?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, you were the one who told them, make us legitimate. Go get yourself a license, correct? Hello? Is that wrong? Oh.
Yes.
You and Mr. Massimino were friendly, correct?
Yes.
And you went into the Blues Crab Bar often, right?
Yes.
So if anybody who had a machine had a problem with it, it was easier for them, if they couldn't get in touch with you, to call the bar, and then sooner or later, they would say, somebody's having a problem with the machine, you would get that message. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And that wouldn't necessarily mean that Mr. Massimino had anything to do with the machine that was having the problem, correct?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, Mr. Massimino was incarcerated for most of the time during this period of time, correct, in the 90s?
Yes.
Also, you know he had a felony record, so he couldn't own a liquor license or a bar, correct?
True.
So there was a liquor license or a bar, Blues Crab Bar had to be in someone else's name other than his, correct?
Yes.
Now, just want to touch on this a little bit. The amount of money that the government confiscated you was for $600,000, correct?
No.
Was more?
They confiscated?
No, well, that they put a lien on.
Yes.
Okay. And besides the $600,000, there was other monies that they put a lien on, correct?
Not that I know of.
So $600,000 was the total amount of money that they were able to put a lien on?
No. I don't have that much to put a lien on.
Well, they put where'd that figure of $600,000 come from?
That was their figure.
So they just picked the figure out of the air and said, we're going to put a lien on you for $600,000,
Objection
correct?
to the form of the question, Your Honor. Lack of foundation.
Like,
Well,
the foundation is, it's in this agreement, $600,000.
Overruled.
Wasn't the question.
Overruled. Do you understand where that figure, how was it arrived at or proposed?
Supposedly that's how much I made on the video poker machines
Okay.
Okay, over a period of time.
over a period of time.
So, and so they said that at the end of, when you get sentenced, the government's going to make a decision on how much money you're going to have to forfeit out of that $600,000?
Yeah.
So, as Mr. Jacobs pointed out, that's anywhere from $100 to as much as they could find, correct?
Yes.
And if you don't have $600,000, they can't get $600,000, correct?
Yes.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Ms. Pagano, please.
Mr. Arthurton, good morning.
How are you?
My name's Greg Pagano, and I represent Mr. Stano. You first came to know, or got to know Anthony Stano, that is, in about 2000 or 2001, correct?
Yes.
You didn't know him as well as you knew Mousy and Marty and some of the other people, correct?
Yes.
In fact, Anthony is from New Jersey or South Jersey, correct?
Yes.
And he would drive here to Philadelphia to take care of the JMA stops and the customers and the machines, correct?
Yes.
You bought your garage around that time period as well, correct? Late 1990s or early 2000s?
That sounds right.
Okay, and you told us that you had a conversation before Anthony purchased a route for the machines, that you had a conversation with him that, you know, you would assist him and that you would service the machines if he in fact ran the business like you ran your business, correct?
Yeah.
Which means get a license, pay taxes, and do things the right way, correct?
Yes.
And to your knowledge and to the best of your ability in watching him and in dealing with him for 10 years, he ran it that way, correct?
Yes.
He would have no reason to identify the blue house across the street from your warehouse as a false address for JMA, correct?
Objection,
Yes.
Your Honor. He doesn't know what's on it.
I'll rephrase the question,
Yes,
Judge.
Stano's intent.
Did Mr. Stano say that, or let me back up even further. Mr. Stano, in fact, asked you to use your warehouse as his Philadelphia address because he lived in New Jersey, correct?
No, to store his stuff in there, yes.
Okay, but in order to get a City of Philadelphia business privilege license, he had a conversation with you and asked you, can I use your address on my business privilege license? Did he not?
No, he asked me to store his stuff in there.
Okay, and you allowed him to store his stuff in there, correct?
Sure.
And you did that as a courtesy, as was brought out before, so you could get additional business, additional stops, correct?
Yeah,
Additional vending business, correct?
yeah.
And JMA was really the perfect business for you to get business from because they didn't deal in pool tables or Mega Touch or shuffleboards. You were able to get all that peripheral or extra business from JMA, correct?
Yeah.
And that was a big reason, or maybe the main reason why you fixed their machines, correct?
Yeah.
And the issue of your fixing the machines, Mr. Labor repeatedly asked you if you fixed them for free. Well, you provided that service not only for JMA, but many other shop owners and bar owners too, correct?
Yes.
In fact, even the address that Mr. Jacobs recently asked you about on Belgrade Street, even though you say you weren't getting any of the profits from that machine, you repaired it for free when it broke because you had other machines there, correct?
Yes.
And that was a service that you provided as a good businessman to provide service to your customers, correct?
Yes.
And these were machines that you fixed for free that you had no financial interest in, correct?
Yes.
Did Anthony Stano ever have a discussion with you that he would use that home that was across the street from your warehouse? You remember you were showing a picture of a blue house across the street from your warehouse?
Yes.
I think it was Friday. And do you remember being asked if you own that property, I think? You don't own that property, correct?
No.
Did Anthony Stano ever tell you that he would use that address across the street from your warehouse as an address on a document for his business privilege license?
No.
Do you have any reason to believe that it was anything other than an honest mistake on Mr. Stano's part?
Objection, Your Honor. He's asking for an opinion as to Mr. Stano's intent.
Based on conversations he had with him, Judge? It was explored on direct.
Yeah, overrule.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
Sure.
Do you have any reason to believe that it was anything other than an honest mistake on Mr. Stano's part in using the address for the blue house across the street on his business privilege license?
I could see a mistake, yes.
Okay. Do you know if he used a different address, namely his accountant's address, for other IRS filings or other tax filings or other business filings? Do you know?
No.
Mr. Stano always treated you fairly, did he not?
Yeah.
More than fair, correct?
Yeah.
In fact, he would often seek you out when he owed you money for parts, correct?
Yes.
And not only would he seek you out and not only would he treat you fairly, but he would oftentimes pay you more than what the parts cost, correct?
Sometimes.
In fact, you said that oftentimes he would do that in your grand jury testimony, correct?
If that's what's in there, yes.
And he also treated the customers fairly, correct?
Yes.
Because it was important to treat the customers fairly, because if you didn't, they would simply go to someone else, correct?
Yeah.
There were other vendors. You talked about competition. Who were some of your competitors in this business? Automatic?
Automatic.
Okay, who else?
Apple.
Apple? Who else?
East Coast.
And they all had machines in South Philadelphia, correct?
Yeah.
And some of the stops that you talked about where Gayton might have had a machine or where other people might have had machines, these other vending companies had machines side by side with those machines, correct?
Yes.
You talked about the Club Quattro. You talked about Charlie Bears. You talked about the First Ward Club. Did JMA or did Anthony ever ask you to fix those machines at those locations?
No.
They were separate businesses from JMA, correct?
Yes.
JMA had nothing to do with the machines at Quattro or Charlie Bears or the First Word Club, correct?
Yes.
Other people had financial interest in those machines, correct?
Yes.
One of the last recordings the government played for you was tape number or transcript number 182, and it was a conversation that you had with this Wally Carnival, who you can't remember. Gayton was on the or Gayton was heard during the conversation, and there was a discussion about Fat Vic. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
When Wally's talking to you about someone infringing upon his machine or his stop, did you ever mention JMA?
No.
Did you ever mention Anthony Stano?
No.
Did you ever mention Joe Legambi or Joe Massimino?
No.
Can the witness be shown 2M6, M as in Mary? Do you see 2M6?
Yeah.
Your Honor, may that also be displayed to the jurors? It was previously published.
Yes, it may.
Sir, do you see that there in front of you?
Yes.
That's your handwriting, is it not?
Yes.
And it looks to be a pink Post-it piece of paper, correct?
Yeah.
If that was recovered, if I told you it was recovered from Mr. Stano in June of 2006, do you have any idea as to when you might have given it to him?
No.
It could have been years before 2006, correct?
Yes.
Take it, take it. Sir, if I told you that Mr. Stano paid you approximately $50,000 in repairs and parts and sometimes even labor over the course of the 10 years that he had a business relationship with you, would you dispute that?
No.
And no further questions. Thank you.
Anyone else? Redirect.
Mr. Arberman, Mr. Jacobs asked you a number of questions about your profit-sharing arrangements with customers, correct?
Yes.
Recall that testimony? I believe you said the stop owners got 75% and you got 25%, correct?
Yes.
And is it correct that the payouts came from the money to pay the payouts at these various locations came from the 75% that the stop owners got, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs also asked you a number of questions about some chips on the circuit board.
Yes.
I believe at one point he asked you about replacing a chip, if you could take one chip out and put a new one in.
Right.
Do those new chips cost money? If you pull out one chip and put another chip in, does the other chip that you put in, does that cost money? You have to buy
Yes.
that? How much do those chips cost?
I wouldn't know. I would say between $5 and $50, depending on how many prongs, how much memory on them.
Do you know where those chips are manufactured?
China.
How about the circuit boards? Where are those circuit boards manufactured?
Judge, I object. Counsel asked about the circuit board. I asked about one chip, the U-17 chip.
Well,
It's been covered on.
where they were manufactured, I think, is beyond the scope, so.
Well, yeah, I'll move on to the next. Mr. Jacobs asked you about where the Merritt machines are manufactured, correct?
Right.
Do you know where the circuit boards inside those machines are manufactured?
At Merritt?
No, the circuit, not the machines themselves, the circuit boards. Do you know where the circuit boards, if you know?
For the Merritt game?
Yes.
Would be at Merritt.
How about the bill acceptors that you,
They would be.
I object. I didn't ask a single question about bill acceptors. not one. That's beyond the scope.
Yeah, sustained.
Your Honor, he's asked about the machines. I'm asking him about the parts that he used for those machines.
Well, but we didn't get into that particular part for the machine, so sustained.
Now, Mr. Jacobs asked you a number of questions about the sloppy route. You recall
Yes.
that? Now, I believe he asked you a question, did JMA buy that route from M&P? And you said yes. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Did you participate in that transaction?
No.
Do you know whether it was bought, or do you know anything at all about how JMA acquired the M&P route?
No.
Now, you said it was a sloppy route, and I believe you testified that the machines needed a lot of work. Do you recall that?
Yes.
The machines were sloppy, but they still worked, correct?
Yes.
And the ones that didn't work, you fixed up, correct?
Yes.
And after you fixed them up, they worked, correct?
Yes.
Judge, these are all leading questions. Rule 611 is not suspended on redirect.
Okay.
Sloppy route. Did you fix the machines up?
Yes.
After you fixed them up, were they in working condition?
Yes.
After they were in working condition, could they be used to make money?
Yes.
Judge, I don't want to object to that question. Making money is not a crime. Not if one of us would object.
Okay, so noted.
The $600,000 forfeiture that you were questioned about, correct?
Yes.
That's been reduced to an order signed by the judge, hasn't it?
I don't know that.
Well, if you were to see a copy of that order, would you agree that it's been reduced to an order?
Sure.
So that's not going to change, correct?
I don't think so.
Mr., I forget if it was Mr. Jacobs or Mr. Pagano, asked you about whether anyone, you pled guilty in the fall of 2010, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs asked you if you continue to see Angelina and those people after you pled guilty, right?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs asked you, and you agreed that no one after you pled guilty ever spoke to you about about telling you what to say to the grand jury or to the trial court, correct?
Yeah.
When you pled guilty, that proceeding was under seal, correct?
Yes.
Nobody knew you pled guilty, correct?
Yes.
In fact, nobody knew you pled guilty until after the indictment in this case was unsealed in May of 2011, correct?
Objection. Objection, what other people would know or not.
Yeah, I think that's the form of the question. The question would be whether it was under seal.
The fact that you were charged and pled guilty remained under seal until after the indictment in this case was returned and unsealed in May of 2011, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs asked you a question if you got in trouble for splitting profits on Cherry Master machines, correct?
Yes.
You recall that? Can we show the witnesses plea agreement, which I believe is 10L? This has been admitted into evidence, so it can be displayed to the jury.
Well, yeah, there was, what paragraph are you going to look at?
Paragraph 1.
Okay.
Paragraph 1, is it correct? I believe you already testified this. That describes the charges that you pled guilty to, correct?
Yes.
Is there anything in...
If there was an objection, there was an objection just before.
Yeah, well, there was an objection, that's what
You sustained it, Judge.
I think that's what he pled guilty to. Let me see your sidebar here. We take it down. Okay, let's proceed, please.
Mr. Arborman, is your guilty plea agreement in front of you there? Can you see that?
Yes.
Isn't it correct? Mr. Jacobs asked you if you got in trouble for having a 50-50 split with some Cherry Master machines. Do you recall that?
Yeah.
Is there anything in your guilty plea agreement about a 50-50 split with Cherry Master machines?
No.
Isn't it, in fact, you pled guilty to racketeering conspiracy, correct?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Santaguida, I believe, asked you some questions about when you were giving statements to the FBI agents. Do you recall those questions?
No.
No.
No. No.
Do you recall Mr. Santaguida asking you those questions a few minutes ago about when you were interviewed by the FBI and you answered some of their questions for them?
Yes.
And Mr. Santaguida asked you if you had, during those interviews with the FBI agents, had you mentioned that Massimino was involved in the JMA business, correct?
Yes.
What is your best recollection today? Did you tell the agents that Mr. Massimino was involved in the JMA business?
I think I told them the M stood for Massey.
The M in JMA stood for Massimino.
Yeah.
1 minute, Your Honor.
Yes.
Mr. Arborman, after you signed your guilty plea agreement and pled guilty in this courtroom, aside from family members and your lawyer, did you tell anybody that you had pled guilty and agreed to cooperate in this case?
No.
Going back to some questions from Mr. Pagano about the address, the business address for JMA.
Yes.
Did you ever give Anthony Staino permission to use your personal address or the business address of Ace Vending as a business address for JMA?
No.
I have nothing further to add.
Cross-examination, if any.
Yes, Mr. Arborman,
Mr. Santaguida, cross-examination limited to the redirect.
that the M was for Massey, is that correct?
Yes.
Nobody told you that, correct?
No.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. You may step down. Thank you, sir.
At this time, the government recalls Special Agent Jack Martinelli.
Your Honor, can we take a 2-minute comfort break?
I'm sorry?
Can we take a 2-minute comfort break?
Okay. The lunch is here. Well, let's just take 2 minutes and then we'll have to come back because
Sorry.
we cannot break. Okay, we'll be back. Let's take a short stretch your legs and we'll be back here soon. Please be seated. Bring the jury in. Okay. No, he's on the road.
Answer all three questions. He's going to testify about some Anthony Staino transcripts which are on your desk.
Please be seated. Let's proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Agent, you were previously sworn. You're still on the road.
Yes, Your Honor.
Agent Martinelli, I believe when you last testified, you testified about your involvement in a wiretap application and monitoring on a cell phone used by Anthony Stano, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You were both the affiant and a monitor, and you reviewed all the calls that were intercepted during that wiretap, correct?
I did.
You were present in the courtroom when some of those conversations were played through the witness, Kurt Arberman, correct?
Yes, I was.
Now, I'm going to read off some exhibit numbers for you. The transcript book is in front of you if you need to consult with it. But my question is going to be, are these transcripts and the recordings accurate? Okay, so just bear with me as I read off these numbers. Government Exhibits 1-146 through Government Exhibit 1-153. Government Exhibits 1-155 through 1-160. Government Exhibits 1-162 through Government Exhibit 1-166. Government Exhibit 1-68 through Government Exhibit 1-73. And finally, Government Exhibit 1-177 through Government Exhibit 1-179. Did you work on those audio clips and transcripts?
I did.
Were the audio clips and the transcripts accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, they were.
Were the voice identifications in the transcripts accurate?
Yes, they were.
And were the dates and times on those transcripts accurately reported?
Yes, they were.
Your Honor, at this time, the government will move into evidence the recordings that we just identified through Agent Martinelli.
No objection.
Okay, it's admitted.
Well, Judge, same understanding as before.
Okay.
The audio is fine, the transcripts are just part of the record, not evidence.
If the jury has been so instructed.
Now, Agent Martinelli, I want to ask you some questions about some of those conversations. Do you have the transcript book 3 in front of you?
I do.
Okay. Let's go to tab 173. Do you have that in front of you?
I do.
Correct. That conversation was intercepted on the wiretap on April 5th, 2001 at 7:02 p.m., correct?
That's correct.
And who were the parties of that conversation?
Anthony Stano and an unknown male and Pasquale DiGiulio.
And do you recall, was there a discussion during that conversation about a coffee machine being broken?
Yes, it was.
I'm looking at line 13. Did Mr. Stanos during that conversation tell Pasquale, okay, I'll take care of it? Do you recall hearing that in that conversation?
Yes, I do.
Now, let's go to tab Government Exhibit 1-174. And at this time, we'd like to play this conversation in its entirety. This is behind tab 174. It's Government Exhibit 1-174, and the transcript is 1-174A. Agent Martinelli, do you recognize the voices in that conversation?
Yes, I do.
What voices do you recognize?
Anthony Stano's voice, Joseph Legambi's voice, and Kurt Arberman's voice.
Now, is it correct? Are you familiar with the call waiting feature on cell phones?
Yes, sir.
Can you explain why there's multiple parties on this conversation?
It appeared to me that Mr. Stano was on the phone with Mr. Arberman, call waiting. A call came in. He heard the beep for call waiting, disconnected with Mr. Arberman, and picked up a second call.
And do you know who was on the second call when it initially began?
I believe that's Mr. Legambi's son.
And at that point, after the second call came in, did somebody else get on the phone and speak to the son besides Anthony Stano?
Yes, Mr. Legambi got on and spoke to his son.
Now, you monitored the entire wiretap for the Stano cell phone, correct?
I did.
It ran for a number of months in the late winter and spring of year 2001, correct?
January to May of 2001, right?
Did you encounter more than one instance in which this phone that was being used by Stano was actually you intercepted Legambi's voice over it?
Yes, we did.
Now, let's go to conversation 1-175. This is a conversation dated April 5th. And just back up for 1 minute. The conversation behind tab 173, when Stano talks to Pasquale, is on April 5th, 2001 at 7:02 p.m., correct?
That's correct.
The conversation behind tab 174 is dated April 5th, 2001, the same day at 7:08 p.m., correct?
Right. 7:08.
6 minutes later.
Yes.
Okay, the next conversation we're going to listen to is Government Exhibit 1-175. It's behind tab 175. For the record, the transcript is identified as Government Exhibit 1-75A. The date of the conversation is, again, April 5th, 2001 at 7:13 p.m. Agent Martinelli, do you have that transcript in front of you?
I do.
Okay, let's play that conversation. Agent Martinelli, do you recognize the voices on that conversation?
I do.
And who are the voices?
Anthony Stano, Joseph Massimino, and Joseph Legambi.
It's correct, this conversation was intercepted at 7:13 p.m. on April 5th, 2001.
That's correct, 7:13 p.m.
That's about 5 minutes after the conversation behind tab 174, correct?
Yes.
Now, at the beginning of the conversation, page 1, line 1, Stano says, "No, we don't pay him at all. You know he does it for nothing." Based upon the evidence you've heard in this courtroom, are you able to identify the reference to him?
I object to that, Judge. She's not a conversant.
Sustained.
Calling your attention to line 4, Stano uses the phrase mouse. Do you recognize that phrase?
Yes, I do. It's a nickname for Mr. Massimino.
Okay. And at line 11, Mr. Legambi uses the phrase mouster. Do you recognize that?
I took that to be another nickname for Mr. Massimino.
Okay. At line 11, did Mr. Legambi get on the cell phone?
He did.
Okay. And who did Mr. Legambi speak to after that?
Mr. Massimino.
Now, calling your attention to page 2, lines 2 through 4, Mr. Legambi says to Massimino, but that's one of the best things because last month we blew it. Let me cross-reference you to Government Exhibit 1-162. Can you take a look at that transcript?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, what is the date of that transcript?
March 7th of 2001, 5:23 p.m.
Would that be approximately 1 month earlier than the conversation reported at tab 175?
Yes.
Now, calling your attention to the tab at 162, the conversation intercepted on March 7th, 2001. That was a conversation between Anthony Staino and Pasquale, correct?
That's correct, Mr. DiGiulio and Mr. Stano.
And when you monitored this conversation, did you hear Pasquale tell Staino the coffee machine, they took my coffee machine away?
Yes, I did.
Did you conduct any investigation to find out what, if anything, occurred at Pasquale's location on or about March 7th, 2001?
Right. On 3/6 and 3/7 of 01, Citywide Vice was in Cafe Napoli. They observed poker machines.
Objection, Judge. How does he know all this? He's obviously being told by other people. It's hearsay.
Sustained.
Thank you.
Don't thank the court, please.
Okay.
Did you gather any, without telling what the information or was the source of, did you gather any information?
Right. We figured what I was discussing before. We went to
Don't
this.
go into what was said to you or what
Right.
you read something. Were you able to confirm some information?
We
based upon
requested
this?
the City of Philadelphia Police Department provide us with any 48s or PARs, any reports of activity of anything they did as far as search warrants or investigations on those dates at that location,
Okay.
and we received information on that.
Received that information?
That's correct.
Okay.
One last question, Your Honor. Agent Marnell, I hand you Government Exhibit 2 and 6. Can you identify what this document is?
Yep, pink Post-it note, slip of paper with writing on it that was recovered from Mr. Staino's vehicle on June 1st of 2006.
Can you display that for 1 minute? How did, could you very briefly and quickly explain how the FBI came into possession of that item?
We served a search warrant on the person of and the vehicle of Mr. Staino on June 1st of 2006. And this was found in an organizer on the passenger seat of the vehicle.
Of his car?
Of his car, yes.
And what, you may display it in the room. What was the, what kind of car was searched that day?
Volkswagen Touareg, sports utility vehicle.
I have no further questions of this witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, let's take our lunch break. It's 12:30. We'll return at 1:40. Please do not discuss the matter among yourselves with anyone. Leave your notes here, and I'll see you at 1:40.